Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Hinata followed Naruto into the darkness and became his monster queen, part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Hinata. Naruto. Ah. Oh my gods. Naruto. Please stop. What is going on? Why were they doing this? I could barely see him. There were so many people. They were so angry, so loud, so violent. I knew it was Naruto they were attacking. I'd know his voice anywhere. It was hard to see him, but within the crowd I spotted his orange jumpsuit. It was stained with blood. Fireworks went off in the night sky. The noise drowned out Naruto's screams, but I could still hear him. Every year I loved watching the fireworks. The festival of the anniversary of the Kyuubi's attack was sad at times, but it was supposed to be a celebration of victory and triumph for our village. This night would forever change how I viewed those fireworks. I ran as fast as I could towards the crowd. Somehow I'd been separated from my father. I suppose I'd gotten distracted by so many festival attractions. He'll be angry at me when I see him, but right now that was the furthest thing on my mind. Right now the only thing that mattered was getting to Naruto. There must have been at least 50 villagers. They were all in a circle stabbing at Naruto, kicking him, punching him. He laid on the ground covering his head. I ran towards them as fast as I could. Tears were pouring down my face. I had to help him. I had to. I was short, so it was easy to run under their legs and maneuver around them. I tried to use what little chakra I had to move faster, but I've never been very fast or very strong. If only I was stronger. Somehow I managed to get to him. I ran under a man's leg and leapt forward just in time to stop a pitchfork from poking into Naruto's cowering body again. I engulfed him and used my body as a shield. I'd protect him against anything. Stop it. Why are you doing this? He never did anything to you. I screamed at the top of my lungs. Naruto's blood stained my clothes, my face, my hands, but I didn't care. Only one thing mattered. Protecting my Naruto. She's a Hyuga. Careful. One adult spoke. Little girl, get away from that demon. A woman spoke up this time. Someone grabbed me from behind and started to pull at my waist. I clung to Naruto, grabbing his top. No. Stop it. Don't hurt him. Why wouldn't they listen? I was too weak to hold on. As soon as they pulled me away, they began to attack him again. Oh gods. Ta. I heard Naruto whisper weakly. His voice was extremely quiet, but I heard it. He spoke my name. I turned around and thrust my hand as hard as I could into the chest of the man who was dragging me away. A burst of chakra shot from my palm. It was more than I'd ever released. He dropped me and then fell face first on the ground. He went completely still. A few people who saw what I did actually backed away from me. I didn't care. I ran back to Naruto and covered him again. This time I was ready to fight. I had to protect him. My entire body was shaking as I dropped into a fighting stance, holding my palms out in warning. I couldn't activate my Byakugan, but right now I'd do whatever I could. What do we do? I heard one of them ask. He's dead. She killed him. A woman screamed while kneeling over the man I'd attacked. We won't get another chance to kill the demon. Another random villager spoke up. She's a murderer. Spoke another. That realization terrified me. I shook my head in protest. No. I sputtered. No. I can't be a murderer. My thoughts were interrupted by the painful feeling of something hitting me in the back of the head. After that it was hard to think. My body went limp and I fell flat. I couldn't move. All I could do was stare to the side at Naruto's helpless face. At least I could see his face now. His blue eyes were filled with tears as he looked at me. His gaze was weak. But then, Was I seeing things? His eyes, they turned red. Naruto. Hinata. She's bleeding. She came to defend me. Where did she come from? It doesn't matter. I have to help her. I have to protect her. I have to kill them. Yes, Kit. Look what they've done to you. To her. They don't deserve to live. What is that voice? Who is there? That doesn't matter now. Do you want power? Yes. I need to be strong. Ask and you shall receive. Is this a trick? You're wasting time, Kit. She is fading. Yes. I want power. I need power. The power to kill them all. Yes. Finally. Hinata. This has to be a dream. No. A nightmare. Naruto was glowing. There was this power around him. He stood up and roared. That roar was filled with so much rage, so much pain. It was terrifying, but somehow, I wasn't scared. Hearing him roar made me feel safe. The next moments were all one big blur. There was so much screaming, so much blood. I tried to rise, but my body wouldn't let me. All I could do was watch from my position, lying helplessly on the ground. Watch as Naruto tore them all to pieces. It was disgusting. I should have been scared. Why wasn't I scared? Naruto ripped the head off of the last remaining villager and let out another beastly roar into the night sky. I don't know what I felt at that moment, but I couldn't look away. Then he stopped and turned his fiery red gaze on me. I shivered. I was helpless. Was he going to kill me too? Naruto walked towards me and reached down. I closed my eyes, but I didn't feel pain. Instead, I felt myself being lifted up. When I opened my eyes, Naruto was looking down at me. His eyes were blue again. Are you okay? He spoke softly. I think so. He smiled. Despite the blood covering his face, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I couldn't help returning his smile. I'll keep us safe, he said to me. He carried me bridal style as he took off into a sprint. Just minutes ago I thought he was helpless, yet now I was the helpless one. It looks like all his scars were gone. I don't know how, but I was too exhausted to question it. I nuzzled my face into his chest. I don't know where he was taking me, and I didn't care. He was okay. We were together. That's all that mattered. Another day had passed. Like usual, I woke up in my own bed. I went to school and did my normal routine. School had been out for a week after the festival. They found 47 people dead but wouldn't give details about what happened. I knew that Naruto had done it. At least I think so. He saved me. But the very next day after the festival, I woke up in my bed. Father was angry at me for separating from him during the festival, but that was all. I even had clean clothes the next morning. There was no sign of the blood which covered me that night. Naruto gave no sign at school that he'd killed so many people. He played the same pranks, made the same jokes. He was still the dead last in class who couldn't even make a proper henge. I think I'm going crazy. Maybe I didn't murder that man after all. Maybe it was all just a dream and the deaths at the festival were just an unfortunate coincidence. It would be a huge relief to know that I didn't kill someone, even if they were going to hurt Naruto. I had to stop thinking about it. Hello. Naruto-kun. I saw him in the hallway during our lunch break. He moved towards me with his usual happy-go-lucky attitude. He walked with a bright smile, his arms resting behind his head. Not a care in the world. Oh hey Hinata, he stated casually. Then he just walked past me. Naruto went over to Sasuke to challenge him to a kunai throwing contest. Naruto always lost, but that didn't stop him from constantly trying. Maybe it was just a dream. When Naruto inevitably lost, Kiba made fun of him like usual. Naruto rubbed his nose with one finger and played it off, pointing at Sasuke and vowing to become better than him. The class turned away in disinterest. When Kiba turned his back to Naruto, Naruto sent him a deathly glare. No one else saw that look but me. It was a look I've only seen Naruto give once. A look of rage, of malice, of hate. His expression lasted for only a second before it disappeared and his mask returned. It was hard to keep denying what I knew in my heart was true. Still, I had to know for sure. I followed Naruto home after school. Normally I'd go straight home and before dinner Hanabi and I would spar. I had plenty of time to make it home before our sparring session, so I took the time to tail Naruto. He walked casually through the village. I didn't actually know where he lived. As he walked I could see the glares he received from so many people. I can't believe I didn't notice them until now. Naruto didn't seem to notice, or if he did, he didn't show it. He just continued to walk with that carefree stride. He even had a contented smile on his face like he usually does. Is this really the same boy from that night? We finally made it to his apartment. I hid very far back, but I was close enough to see where he was going. The building was disgusting. It was located in the poorest area of the village. He walked into the run-down apartment building and disappeared. I didn't know which unit he was in, but I only had to wait a few minutes to find out. I could see his silhouette in the window of the third floor. I was too far away and too low to get a good look. At least I knew where he lived. It made me so sad. He lived alone in such a terrible place. How could the village let this happen? How could the Hokage let this happen? How could anyone? I got home just in time to spar with Hanabi. Father didn't seem to notice that I got home late. Or if he did, he didn't care. As long as I was on time for the sparring session and our quiet dinners, I was spared his wrath. I began to follow Naruto home regularly after that. He didn't always go straight home. Sometimes he'd stop at this ramen shop. Other times he'd pull a prank. It became routine for a while. Eventually, however, I noticed something strange. There seemed to be less people glaring at Naruto. I thought that was part of my imagination as well. As time went on, it seemed undeniable. Then something even stranger happens. One day I thought I noticed someone else in Naruto's apartment. I had to know the truth. The next day after school I rushed to Naruto's apartment, determined to get there before he did. I knew about how long it took for him to arrive. He took his time, so it took about an hour. He could get there faster if he wanted, but he never seemed to be in a rush. Naruto kept his window open a lot, but it was on the third floor. I still hadn't learned to climb up walls yet. Maybe if I really tried I could make it, but I decided to just try his front door instead. It was unlocked. Naruto's apartment was rather plain and small. There was only one room. Even that room was smaller than mine. It felt so lonely. I hesitated to explore. Technically I was breaking and entering. Well, maybe not breaking. But I definitely wasn't supposed to be here. With a deep breath I found the courage to continue. I was here to find out the truth. Never mind that this was Naruto's apartment. His living room, his bathroom, his bed. My face was burning bright red as I made it to his room. I took tentative steps forward and the first thing I did was sit on his bed. I don't think my face has ever burned brighter. I was on Naruto's bed. Thump. I nearly jumped out of my skin. A noise came from his closet, like something falling to the ground. I thought about just running away, but something made me push forward. I got up and slowly made my way to the closed closet door. I opened it and gasped. Oh my gods. Two people were tied up with rope. They leaned back against the closet wall. They were bloody and bruises. The smell of blood was overwhelming. I don't know how I didn't smell it until now. One was a man. He had on an apron. I think I recognized him. Yes. He was the owner of a restaurant that Naruto passes by on his way home. The other person was a middle-aged woman. She wore this large pearl necklace. I recognized her too. She worked at the jewelry store. Another place Naruto passed by on his way home. I was mortified. They looked like death. When they saw me, their eyes widened. They were gagged, but they screamed at me nonetheless. I could see their panic, their plea for help. The woman tried to move, but her wrists were tied behind her back and a clanking noise resounded from behind her. A metal chain bound them to a lock on the floor. "You're not supposed to be in here," came the very familiar voice of Naruto. I swiveled around and there he was. How did he get in here without my noticing? I didn't hear or see him. "Naruto, what's going on?" I could barely get the words out. I must have sounded pathetic. I was so scared. Naruto maintained his carefree posture, walking next to me to look down at his two captives. "Punishment," Naruto stated bluntly. The way he said it was haunting. He still sounded like Naruto, sounded so chipper. But his eyes, they were still bright blue, but they held something sinister underneath. Naruto squatted down to their level. They cowered, backing further into the closet like cornered animals. Their muffled whimpers made me quiver. "Silence," Naruto commanded. They went quiet. I didn't know who was more terrified, them or me. Naruto reached forward and patted the head of the woman. She flinched from his touch. He stood up and closed the closet door, turning to face me now. I backed away until I fell over on my butt atop his bed. Naruto followed and looked down on me. "What are you going to do to me? This is so terrible, Naruto." I whimpered. Naruto bent down and put his hands near the side of my hips. He stared at me for a long while. I turned my head away. "I'm going to eat your soul," Naruto whispered. I couldn't help the tears falling from my eyes. "I'm just kidding. Geez, Hinata, you're so serious," Naruto suddenly blurted out while rising up and giving me space. He laughed. How could he be laughing? His laughter was so innocent. I didn't know what to think. "Naruto?" I questioned cautiously. He rubbed his nose in that familiar Naruto way, a big grin on his face. How could he be so light-hearted in this situation? "Sorry. I just couldn't help it. I didn't scare you too much, did I?" Naruto placed his hands behind his head and waited for me to answer. I'm glad he was patient. It took me a while to gather my thoughts. I looked over to the closed closet door before glancing at him. "Naruto. I'm so confused," I admitted. Naruto turned around and sat next to me on the bed, plopping down casually. "Yay, that's my bad. I probably should have told you what I was doing. I figured this was as good a way as any to show you. I figured you'd find out eventually, given you've been following me all this time," Naruto commented matter-of-factly. My eyes widened. "You knew I was following you. Why didn't you say anything?" He shrugged. "Well, I kind of liked it. I couldn't really be upfront with you. After that night, the Hokage started watching me more closely. He came to me and asked me a lot of questions and started a secret investigation. I told him I didn't remember what happened during the festival. I lied, but I know he didn't believe me. So the reason it may seem like I've been ignoring you is because I didn't want to act suspicious and draw any unnecessary attention. At least not yet. I still have to get stronger," Naruto explained. I was shocked. It took me a while to respond. While I gathered my thoughts, Naruto just stared at me. I couldn't maintain eye contact. I knew it wasn't just a dream. "So, you really killed all those people?" "Yep." I fidgeted. "So I killed that man?" I feared hearing the truth. "Totally. In one hit too. I'm impressed. How could he be so casual about this?" "Naruto." He rubbed the back of his neck and sighed. "Yay, I know. This must be a lot for you to take in. Don't worry. I'm taking care of everything. Like I told you. I'll protect us," Naruto stated confidently while rising from his seat. I watched him warily. He walked over to the closet and knocked on the door. The two inside were whimpering again. Hey, I hate repeating myself. I said be quiet. Naruto barked out in annoyance. Their whimpers only grew. Naruto huffed. He took a kunai out from his leg strap and twirled it in his finger. He swung the closet door open and those two looked at me again. They were in a panic. Hinata-chan, wait at the park please. I'll be out in a minute. Naruto instructed. I hesitated for just a moment but eventually I got up and nodded. Oh okay. I replied with my head bowed as I headed for the exit. They screamed in that muffled way once more. I said shut up. I heard Naruto yell as he brought his kunai down on them. I hurried away, leaving the apartment building and running as fast as I could. I ran until my heart felt like it would jump out of my chest. I was about halfway home when I stopped. My mind was spinning. My world went black. I woke up a while later. It was night time. Oh gods, how long was I out? Father was going to be so mad at me. I shakily rose to my feet. My knees were wobbly. At least I knew exactly where I was. I guess I passed out and I was in a spot that was out of sight enough for no one to have noticed me. I was about to sprint home when I remembered what happened. Naruto. I stopped and stared at the path towards home and then another path. My body began to move on its own. I was heading towards the park. I knew exactly which one he was talking about. It wasn't too far from his house. I don't know why I was going towards it. I should be running far away as fast as I could, but something compelled me forward. I needed to see him again. The park was empty when I got there. The sun was almost down. I only spotted the silhouette of one lone figure. There he was. Naruto was swinging lightly along a swing. He had this happy, far-off look. Hello, Naruto. I managed to sputter out. Naruto finally turned his intense gaze towards. He closed his eyes and smiled brighter than I've ever seen. Hey Hinata-chan. The way he spoke my name was, well, it made me squirm. I was sweating, my heart beat 1,000 times a minute. I bowed my head and avoided his gaze. I just couldn't look him in the eye when he was staring at me like that. Naruto. I don't know what's going on. I'd been thinking that a lot lately. Naruto let out his patented Naruto chuckle. I wrapped my arms around myself. He made me feel silly. Come sit with me. Naruto beckoned. I hesitated for just a moment before following his command. I took a seat on the swing next to his. The chains squeaked as we swayed next to each other. Thanks for saving me that night. Naruto spoke up to break the silence. I poked my fingers together. It was a long-held nervous habit of mine. I couldn't let them keep hurting you. I admitted honestly. Naruto nodded. That's why I'm thanking you, silly. My blush had returned. I stole glances towards him and every time I did he was staring back at me. It was almost too much. I felt like I was going to pass out. Oh, you're welcome. I want to thank you as well. You're welcome. Naruto said without hesitation. We both went silent again. Naruto, I began. Yes, Hinata-chan. The chains to my swing were rattling from how much I was shaking. Why are those people locked in your closet? I blurted the words out quickly and closed my eyes. I just had to get my thoughts out even if it was hard to speak. I told you. It's punishment. Punishment for what? I had to know. For showing me such little respect. He said in a haunting voice. I looked over and saw his eyes narrow. Everything about him was chilling. Yet still it was undeniable that this was still Naruto. My Naruto. I didn't know what to say. Naruto chuckled and shook his head. He finally tore his gaze away from me now to look up into the night sky. I'm tired of people hurting me, glaring at me, hating me for no reason. I have a secret that I didn't find out until that night. The Kyuubi, the fox demon that was defeated all those years ago. They didn't kill it. It was too strong. So they sealed it away inside of a baby whose chakra was strong enough to contain it. That baby was me. My eyes widened in shock. I just couldn't believe it. Naruto. He reached over and brushed a finger along my cheek. Don't worry, Hinata-chan. I'm fine. Despite everything, his words and his touch made me feel a lot better. I still had to know more. So that's what happened. The Kyuubi possessed you. Made you kill all those people? I asked in a hopeful manner. He didn't hesitate to crush my hopes. No, I did that all by myself. I just borrowed Kyuubi's power. But I killed those people. Those scum. Naruto spat out the word scum. I flinched at his ferocity. His expression softened. Sorry, I can get carried away sometimes, he said while looking away. It's okay. I don't know why I felt the need to comfort him, but it felt right. He smiled at me and reached over to grab my hand. I thought I was going to have a heart attack. Thank you. I don't mean to talk that way and scare you. It's just, I won't take it a second longer. Not anymore. If they want to hate me, then I'll give them a reason to hate me. No, to fear me. But you don't need to fear me, Hinata. Everyone else will, but not you. You're special. His words were monstrous. I could see that now. But somehow that didn't matter when he said something in particular. I'm special. He chuckled softly and nodded. Of course you are. You saved me. You stood up for me. You defended me from those bastards. I'll never hurt you. Even if you never talk to me again, I'll understand. My body moved on its own again. I jumped up from my swing and engulfed him in a hug. My arms wrapped around his neck. I actually ended up knocking him out of his swing. We both fell to the ground, but he held me close and broke our fall. I won't do that, Naruto-kun. I love you. I blurted out before gasping and covering my mouth. He smiled bright and looked up to me with a gentle expression. His arms were wrapped securely around my waist as we laid together atop the grass. I was so embarrassed. I dropped my head low and hid my face in his chest. I love you too, Hinata-chan. I looked up to him with a feeling I couldn't recognize. We stared at each other for longer than we probably should have. He was the first to look away. Hinata-chan, would you like to know my dream? Naruto suddenly questioned. I just nodded. I couldn't speak. I don't know what kind of pathetic noise would leave my throat if I did. This world is so messed up and people can be so cruel. They only care about themselves. They will hurt anyone to make themselves feel better about their stupid lives. My dream is to rule this world and teach everyone a lesson. I was shaking, but I didn't pull away. What lesson is that, Naruto-kun? You reap what you sow. His voice was darker than I ever heard it. But as soon as he said it, his mood brightened. Or something like that. I know that's kind of a corny line, but still. You get the point. Naruto said with a childish giggle. Despite how horrible what he was saying was, I couldn't help laughing with him. I laughed harder than I can ever remember. Hinata-chan. Yes, Naruto-kun. When I conquer the world, I think I'll be like the first king of the world. Or emperor. Yay. I like the sound of that better. I want you to be with me when I do. How does being an empress sound? My eyes widened. An empress. Yep. I poked my fingers together nervously. Don't you have to get married first? Naruto's grin widened. Yep. As soon as we are old enough, we will get married right away. Naruto declared. I felt like I was going to pass out. I think all the blood in my entire body had rushed to my face. Oh, okay, Naruto-kun. Naruto pumped his fists in the air triumphantly. I marveled at him. I'd stick by his side no matter what. That night, father screamed at me for coming home so late. Somehow I couldn't bother to care. I sparred with Hanabi and studied like I was supposed to. All with a subtle smile glued to my face. Nothing could get me down. That night I snuck out of the house. I sped over to Naruto's apartment. When I got there, the lights were off. I tried to be as quiet as I could, but honestly I didn't really need to. No one else but Naruto lived in the apartment building. That's how run down it was. His front door was unlocked as usual. Naruto was waiting for me in the bedroom. The first thing I did was look at the closet door. He chuckled and moved over to it and opened the door. It was empty. See, you don't have to worry about them bothering us. What? What happened to them, Naruto? I let them go. I went wide-eyed. You did. He nodded happily. Yep. Now they will fear me. And they will make others fear me as well. Only the adults know my secret and they aren't supposed to talk about it around the kids. They only talk about it among themselves in secret. So my plan is to teach everyone that glares at me a lesson until they show me the respect I deserve. An emperor must command respect. But I also showed them mercy. So eventually I'll command loyalty and devotion as well. I'm very confident they won't tell the authorities about me. Even if they do, I destroyed all evidence, so it'd be my word against theirs. They already hate me because I'm the demon child, so it would be easy to make everyone believe that they are lying about me just because they hate me. Naruto explained casually while letting out a yawn and hopping in the bed. I only had my pajamas on, along with a coat. I took off the coat and climbed in the bed with Naruto. We both got under the covers and cuddled close together. You're so smart, Naruto-kun. Naruto shrugged. Kyuubi helped me figure most of this out, so give him credit too. Do you mean the Kyuubi? I couldn't help how scared my voice sounded. Naruto snicked. Yep. Though don't worry. He's a big softie. You'll meet him soon. Maybe when I'm not so tired. Naruto said with a big yawn. I nodded. Okay. Good night, Naruto-kun. Good night, Hinata-chan. I love you. It was still difficult to say those words. I couldn't help blushing every time I said them. Love ya too. He blurted out without hesitation before closing his eyes and pulling me in even tighter. Despite all that had happened, all that I'd learned, how scary everything was, when I was in Naruto's arms I couldn't help but feel safe. I couldn't help feeling happy. I won't give this up for anything. Not even the world. Hinata. The last 2 weeks have been the best 2 weeks of my entire life. Naruto and I were virtually inseparable. After school I followed him home. It turns out he only went home to put his things away and change clothes. He spent most of his time in an empty clearing in the forest a few miles away from his apartment. It was a quiet, secluded place surrounded and hidden by trees. Naruto was amazing. He could already run up trees and even walk on water. There was a stream nearby. I trained a bit, but nothing like the way Naruto trained. And I couldn't train as long as him because after a few hours I always had to head back home to spar with Hinabi. Sometimes I wouldn't train at all and I'd just watch him. He didn't mind. I kept sneaking out at night. I was surprised no one caught me, but I guess I'm better at stealth than I give myself credit for. We slept together every night, curled up tight. It was a dream come true. Until Hinata-chan. I groggily opened my eyes to see Naruto sitting up in the bed. Yes, Naruto-kun. As I rubbed the sleep from my eyes I got a clearer image of Naruto. His posture was all wrong. He was staring forward with an intense expression. I sat up in alarm. Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Naruto's gaze narrowed. He was staring forward at nothing. Hinata-chan, do you trust me? He asked suddenly. I began to fidget but didn't hesitate. Of course, Naruto-kun. He was scaring me. What was going on? Then please come with me. He held out his hand. I took it without a second thought. General Pav. The area is clear, Hiashi-sama. A shinobi with the distinct eyes of a Hyabi spoke respectfully towards the clan leader, Hiashi Hyuga. Naruto's apartment building was surrounded by Hyuga shinobi. Hiashi stood atop a nearby building. He had his hands tucked in the sleeves of his robe. Hiashi took a hand out of his sleeve and waved it. When seeing that gesture, the battalion of Hyuga shinobi sprung forward. Naruto's bedroom window was open and so was his front door. Shinobi dashed through the window one after the other. They sprinted towards the bed and removed the sheets to reveal both Naruto and Hinata sleeping soundly. Hinata's mouth was covered as her body was pulled from the bed. She opened her eyes and released a muffled scream as a hail of shuriken rained down on the sleeping form of Naruto. They struck clean. Hiashi appeared in the blink of an eye to send a powerful palm strike straight at Naruto's heart. Hinata wouldn't stop screaming, at least until the form of Naruto erupted into a cloud of smoke. Hiyashi's eyes widened in shock. A clone? But how did we not notice? The man thought to himself in alarm. The sound of muffled laughter drew everyone's attention. Hinata was giggling uncontrollably. Release her, Hiashi barked. When her mouth was uncovered, Hinata's childish laughter continued to fill the room. So much for the almighty Byakugan. Hinata teased before erupting in a cloud of smoke. Naruto appeared from the smoke, the boy sticking his tongue out at Hiashi and giving the man the stink eye. The boy was soon riddled with shurikens and pinned to the wall behind him. Hiashi closed the gap in less than a second. What have you done with my daughter, demon? The man barked. Naruto maintained a grin. You might as well be blind. Here, let me make it easy for you, Naruto said while turning his head to the side to look towards the window. Hiashi focused his Byakugan on the direction Naruto was looking. Miles away in that familiar clearing, Hiashi spotted another Naruto. This one was different. The boy's eyes were a dark, feral red. And he had Hinata captive, holding a kunai to her throat. Let's talk. Alone. The Naruto pinned to the wall stated before disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Hiashi gritted his teeth in frustration. Orders, sir. One shinobi called out to Hiashi. Hiashi stared forward in silent, stoic contemplation. Hinata. When Naruto asked me to trust him, I didn't know what to expect. I couldn't have guessed in a million years that this is what he meant. Naruto kept saying that I'd meet Kyuubi soon. I tried not to press the issue for fear of becoming too annoying. I trusted that when it was time Naruto would introduce me. I wished he found a better way. Naruto, I trust you. I love you. But still, he scares me. You actually came alone. How amusing. I gave it a 50-50 chance you'd try something stupid. Naruto's voice was different. It sounded kind of like Naruto, but then there was a second, darker voice that spoke at the same time. It made me shiver. I watched my father walk into the clearing from the brush. He was as stoic as always. Release my daughter, demon. Father showed no fear and spoke in the same commanding tone he always did. If I say no, the kunai he had against my neck pressed closer. He drew blood. I couldn't help quivering. Naruto, I whispered. Father glanced at me only briefly. What do you want? Ah, now we are getting somewhere. The pressure against my neck softened. Somehow I still didn't feel better. Well, father was always very blunt. Naruto, or well, Kyuubi, didn't respond right away. He removed the kunai from my neck and crossed his arms. He stood completely differently from how Naruto usually stands. Naruto was always relaxed, carefree. Kyuubi seemed larger than life. He stood like I'd imagine a hardened warrior would stand. Tall, imposing, unmoving. They were so different. The future. More specifically, the terms of your surrender and sworn allegiance to us. Kyuubi elaborated. Father narrowed his eyes. Is this some sick joke? Kyuubi didn't respond. At least, he didn't speak. But his face said it all. Just moments ago Kyuubi seemed amused. He had this creepy smirk. But now it was completely gone. His fiery red eyes bore down on father. He looked ready to kill. I stood between the two, unsure of what to do. He let me go, but I didn't feel free. I didn't move. I wouldn't until Kyuubi gave me permission. Father broke the silence. Why would I ever consider surrendering to you? Were you capable of destroying us, we would not be having this conversation. You're stalling. For what I don't know, but it's clear you have lost much of your power. In fact, tonight you will die at my hand. Father dropped into a fighting stance and disappeared. I was suddenly lifted off my feet. I couldn't help the surprised squeak that erupted from my throat. Another shinobi had picked me up and was carrying me through the air. I reached out towards Naruto in the same way I did on that night months ago. This time I was powerless to stop my capturer from tearing us apart. This was another Hyuga, a trained shinobi. What could I do? A huge burst of chakra erupted from Naruto's back as father appeared directly in front of him. Naruto. Oh God. I knew what that meant. I'd done it to a man and that man died instantly. And I was only 9 years old. A blow from my father was something else altogether. Tears poured from my eyes. The shinobi carrying me landed on a tree branch far away to observe. I could barely see what had happened. I feared the worst. Hiyashi Pav. That blow struck clean. It was only a matter of time before the monster would fall limp at my feet. After all these years of enduring its evil, watching it just walk around, it was finally dead. The council agonized over how to handle the demon child. I sat back in frustration as they gathered night after night without a conclusive decision. It took them so long to decide. I had to let Hinata spend 2 weeks in this demon's bed. 2 weeks. After this night I'll make things right. I'll make sure she is monitored for any sign of corruption. We will move on from this nightmare. The demon's head was hung low. It didn't move. I finally noticed just how long it stayed standing. This isn't right. I struck again at its heart, then again, and again. It wasn't moving, wasn't responding. For some reason his chakra was not dwindling. The chakra of a recently dead body lingered, but I should have immediately noticed a drastic reduction. What the hell? The demon lifted its head and stared at me with those putrid eyes. It kept its arms crossed. Are you finished? For the first time in years I felt fear. Real fear. This fear was different. I always feared for my children and the life they would eventually lead. That never went away. But this was something I hadn't felt since that day over 10 years ago. When Kyuubi ravaged our village. No. No. I spoke through gritted teeth. It can't be. I dropped low to form the 8 trigrams stance. I assaulted him again, and again, and again. He just stood there. Why won't you die? I didn't expect the head of the Hyuga clan to be such a fool. Your pathetic attacks didn't work on me 10 years ago. Why would they now? I stopped in my tracks, only getting to 183 strikes. Maybe I should rethink my offer if this level of stupidity is what I can expect from your clan. I jumped back. As I did, my clan joined me, filling the trees around the clearing. A hail of shuriken and kunai rained down on the demon. They bounced harmlessly off of a red aura surrounding the demon child. It released an annoyed sigh. Okay then. Let me remind you of who I am. Then he disappeared from my sight. My sight. The eyes of a Hyuga. All around me I heard screams. My people were being slaughtered, clawed in half, torn apart. The demon moved like a blur. Blood rained down from the tree tops. All I could do was watch helplessly. Stop this! I shouted desperately. Then it appeared in front of me, its clawed fingers dripping with blood. It licked its own hand. Its chakra was different now. It hurt my eyes to even look at it. Red chakra radiated from it. It was like staring directly into the sun. Where did all this power come from? I was immediately reminded of that hellish fight 10 years ago. The reality of the situation didn't really sink in until now. We are doomed. Oh, do I have your attention now? Dozens of my clan had died in only a few seconds of the demon's assault. Yes, let's talk. Much better. Its voice oozed out. I waved a hand, signaling the rest to fall back. They did as instructed. The demon grew a sick grin. Hinata. Kyuubi was a monster. He killed so many people. Even my father could do nothing to stop him. After a while I had to look away. The scene was grotesque. Then I fell. The shinobi who was carrying me suddenly dropped me. When I looked up I saw that she was missing her head. I managed to land on my feet but the dead body landed right next to me. It took all the willpower I had not to scream at the top of my lungs. I covered my mouth with both hands and backed up into a tree. There was blood everywhere, just like that night. I was frozen, my knees were shaking. I couldn't move. I wanted to run, to get away but my body wouldn't let me. I slid down the tree and sat on my butt, hugging my chest to my knees. No one can stop him. Wait. Why am I smiling? Why does that thought excite me? I hugged my arms around myself. Somehow, despite all the carnage I felt, safe. I managed to shakily rise to my feet. My father was talking to Kyuubi. I couldn't hear what they were saying. They were too far away. I took a step forward but as soon as I did I found myself being picked up again by yet another shinobi. I struggled this time. Stop squirming. We have to get as far away as possible. The shinobi's panicked voice sputtered out. No, let me go. I have to stay. I insisted. Are you crazy? I shook my head and sent a palm strike to the shinobi's chest. The shinobi dropped me and grabbed his chest. He didn't die like the first man I attacked. This was another Hyuga after all. We fell to the ground and rolled a bit. The shinobi struggled to rise to his feet. What the hell is wrong with you? Do you want to be killed? He barked. I rose as well, looking at him with a confidence I don't remember ever having. You should run away or else you might die too. I said while turning my back to him and walking towards Naruto and my father. The man walked up and grabbed my wrist with one hand. He was still holding his chest with his other hand. I know you've been through a lot but you have to snap out of it. You're going to die if you go back there. I smiled again. He didn't know my Naruto. I'm his wife. He won't like it if he finds out you touched me. Sure, Naruto and I weren't married yet but that got his attention. He released me immediately and took a step back. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I turned my back to the man and moved towards my love. The shinobi didn't follow. My heart was beating rapidly. What did I just say? Where did that come from? I don't know but it felt right. I felt untouchable. It took me a few minutes to get back to the clearing. By the time I did I spotted father and Naruto again. I pushed my way through one lash bush to make my presence known. Speak of the devil. Kyuubi was still in control of Naruto's body. Father looked back at me with an expression I'd never seen in him. Worry. He turned his back to Naruto and walked my way until he was hovering over me. His eyes weren't as overbearing as they usually were. I couldn't read him. He stared at me for a long while before looking past me. Don't be late for school tomorrow. And I expect you home on time for your sparring session. Father ordered. I was shocked. I looked over to Naruto. Well, still Kyuubi. He grinned and nodded at me. I then looked back up to my father. Why yes, father. I stated in a dumbfounded manner. He nodded and walked past me. I watched him disappear into the bush before turning my attention back to Naruto. I can tell by Naruto's blue eyes that he was back. He began to walk towards me. I sprinted towards him and jumped into his arms. He squeezed his arms around my waist and held me tight. I buried my face in his neck. Naruto, it's you, right? I whispered hopefully. The one and only. He replied back in that familiar happy voice. It really was him. I pulled back and bowed my head. I was scared there for a little while. I thought the Kyuubi really took over completely. Naruto rubbed the back of his head with a guilty expression. Yay, sorry about that. I didn't really have time to explain everything because your father and his shinobi were already on the way. I just let Kyuubi borrow my body, but he can't actually take over. He just needed to be in control temporarily so everything would go as smoothly as possible. Naruto explained. I listened intently. I understand, Naruto-kun. I told you, I trust you completely. At first I was a little scared, but then I realized that you'd never hurt me. You'd never let anyone hurt me. Naruto looked at me intensely. I could see the determination in his eyes. The confidence, the optimism. I missed this. Believe it. I kissed him. I don't know what took over me. Hearing him speak like that, I just had to. I rose up on my tippy toes and pressed gently against him. Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. His blush was as bright as mine. I don't think either of us were good at kissing. We just kind of mushed our lips together. Hopefully we'd get better with time. I pulled back first. I was panting. I couldn't even look him in the eyes anymore. Wow. That was nice. Naruto stated in a dumbfounded way. I couldn't help giggling. He pulled me closer and stared down at me. I finally looked up and gazed up at him in awe. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of plans are being set in motion. I'll tell you everything tomorrow. Right now we have to help hide all the evidence of what happened tonight. Your father will take care of the dead bodies here, but I have to go back to the apartment and clean up. Okay, Naruto-kun. What do you want me to do? Naruto grinned brightly. Nothing. Just go back to your house and get a good night's sleep. Tomorrow after school I'll be ready to tell you everything. From now on no one will stop us from being together. I held my hands to my chest and nodded obediently. Okay, Naruto-kun. I hope to see you soon. I was a bit upset that I wouldn't be able to be with him tonight. Naruto picked that up and gave me an Eskimo kiss. Do you think anything would stop me from seeing the only person I love in this world? I nearly fainted. I just shook my head with a love-struck expression. He let out an amused chuckle. Good night, Hinata-chan. I gave him one last squeeze and pulled away. Good night, Naruto-kun. I love you. I love you too. He grinned bright before suddenly disappearing from my sight in a whirl of leaves. I turned around and began to walk calmly through the forest back towards the city. There was still blood and dead bodies everywhere. Dismembered limbs hung from the tree branches. There were shinobi dashing through the trees cleaning up the mess. It was grotesque. Despite that, I wore a contented smile. I was the luckiest girl in the world. Naruto was absent from school today. I knew why. Last night was very eventful. He'd probably still be working on covering up the evidence and cleaning up the mess. Still, not having him in class made me feel lonelier than I can ever remember. Even just one day away completely soured my mood. A few people noticed, but they didn't say anything. I'm glad they didn't. I would have been too distracted to talk much anyway. When class was over, I sprinted to Naruto's apartment as fast as I could. I got there really fast. I guess all that training was paying off at least a little bit. I opened the door to Naruto's empty apartment. I never knocked. I did in the beginning, but Naruto insisted that the apartment was as much my home as it was his. I swooned when he said it. But without Naruto, the apartment didn't feel like home. It was just a place. Where was he? To my surprise, the holes in the walls and floors from all the shuriken and kunai were gone. Well, not completely. But they were filled in. An observant eye would be able to spot them, but Naruto could explain the visible damage by saying he was practicing with kunai and fixed the damage he made. At least that's the answer I'd give. I left the apartment soon after I arrived. If he wasn't here, then he must be at the clearing. When I got to the bottom of the stairs, I heard a door open behind me. I was curious. I didn't think anyone lived in the entire building but Naruto. When I turned around, my heart fluttered like it usually did when laying eyes on my love. There he was. Hey, Hinata-chan. I thought that was you. School out already? Naruto asked in a casual manner. He was poking his head out of the doorway. I sprinted his way and engulfed him in a hug, jumping into his arms. He had no problem catching me as he closed the door behind us. I missed you, Naruto-kun. I sounded more needy than I wanted. He didn't seem to mind. He gave me that big beautiful smile of his. I was only absent for 1 day. He said with a playful chuckle. I laid my head along his shoulder. Too long. We stayed that way for a few moments before I finally noticed just how dark it was around us. Behind Naruto was a stairwell leading down to a poorly lit room. Oh yay. This door leads to the basement of the apartment building. It's actually pretty big. I'm still taking care of some business. Naruto explained. I nodded in understanding. Okay, Naruto-kun. Should I wait upstairs? He shook his head. Nah. I'd much rather you be with me. You smell really nice today. My face burned bright as he took my hand and led me down the stairs. Thank you, Naruto-kun. After last night I wanted to do something special for you. I'm trying a new shampoo. I wanted to know what you thought. Naruto leaned over and placed a kiss on my cheek as we neared the bottom of the stairs. Makes me want to eat you all up. Somehow I managed not to pass out despite all the blood in my body rushing to my face. I clung to his arm and leaned my head against his shoulder. He was so romantic. A foul smell snapped me out of my fantasies. The bottom of the basement had a lot of empty space. It smelled old and musty. On the far side of the room there was another door. Naruto led us right to it. Sorry about the smell. This place hasn't been cleaned in a while and I haven't gotten around to it. I'll have one of my clones take care of it tonight. Naruto stated nonchalantly. I nodded as Naruto got to the door. He took out a ring full of keys from a pouch along his leg and unlocked it. I'd never seen him with those keys before. The sight on the other side of the door gave me pause. It was a large room. Maybe it was a storage closet. It was a bit larger than any storage closet I'd seen, but I couldn't think of another use for it. But more importantly were the 3 women who were chained to the far wall, their wrists bound above their head. Naruto flicked a switch to turn on the ceiling light, startling the women. They looked up and immediately let out muffled whimpers. Naruto released my hand and approached them. Naruto maintained a casual stride, his arms placed lazily behind his head. He watched them for a little while. Ah, you must be thirsty. Hinata-chan, can you bring me that bucket? Naruto questioned while pointing to a table right next to me. I tried to avoid their gaze. The 3 women were looking at me with clear panic in their eyes, the same as the other 2 Naruto had kidnapped before. I bowed my head and silently moved over to the table. The table was riddled with various knives, kunai, screwdrivers, hammers, and some other objects I couldn't name. The bucket was resting on the center of the table. It was half filled with water. It didn't look very clean. I picked it up by the handle and carried it over to Naruto just like he asked. Thanks, babe. Naruto said casually while taking the bucket from me and giving me a kiss on the cheek. Despite the terrible situation, I still couldn't help blushing. The women kept their eyes on me. I refused to look at them. Naruto squatted down in front of the one in the center. She was a middle-aged woman with bright blonde and gray hair. You first. Naruto said while removing the gag from her mouth. Please let me go. I'm sorry I glared at you. I'll never do it again. Just please. Naruto gagged her again. Such a shame. You wasted your chance to drink with useless words. When I want you to speak, I'll tell you to speak. We'll see how you do in another 8 hours. Naruto stated heartlessly. What made me shiver was Naruto's tone. He was still so chipper, so upbeat. He moved to the women to the right. She had a striking resemblance to the first women. They could have been sisters. Your turn. Naruto said while engaging the other blonde-haired women. This one wasted no time in drinking desperately from the pail that Naruto held to her lips. He let her drink her fill until she pulled back. Please, she began. Naruto gagged her before she could continue. He moved to the last woman. That woman had pitch black hair. I noticed that she wore a marriage ring. Naruto didn't speak to her this time as he undid her gag. She drank her fill and stayed silent when she pulled back. She was notably more calm than the other two. Naruto patted her on the head. Smart girl. I'll only give you half time, Naruto said while securing her gag. Naruto stood up and handed the bucket to me. I wordlessly returned it to the table. When I turned around, I saw a dark ball of blue fire forming in Naruto's palm. The women began to release muffled cries of protest. Tears were streaming down their eyes. I didn't know what Naruto was going to do, but I had a pretty good idea. The ball of fire split into 3 separate, smaller balls. One was distinctively smaller than the other two. Then the flames shot out towards the girls and set their entire bodies ablaze in blue flame. Their muffled screams were sickening. Naruto clapped his hands together as if finishing a long day's work. He turned his back to their suffering and reached a hand out towards me. I hurried to his side, leaving the women to burn. Naruto closed the door behind us as we exited. I couldn't help looking back. The last thing I saw was the black-haired woman's eyes baring down on me as if to say, "How could you allow this?" The trip to the clearing was especially quiet today. I kept my head down, lost in my own thoughts. That really bothered you, huh? Naruto questioned while glancing over to me. I turned my head away. Is all that really necessary, Naruto-kun? I was hesitant to ask. Naruto shrugged carelessly. Necessary? No, not really. I do it because I like it. And because they deserve it. I began to poke my fingers together. Naruto's gaze lingered on me, but I didn't question him further. He released a soft sigh. I know that may not be the answer you want to hear, but I can't say it any other way without lying. And I will never lie to you. Naruto's voice was gentle. I stole glances up to him. I understand, Naruto-kun. He nodded as we finally arrived at our clearing. There were a few signs of the battle that went on last night. Well, it was less of a battle and more of a slaughter. But there was no blood and no bodies. Just broken branches and dented trees. Naruto walked out in front of me and looked up into the sky. He closed his eyes and let the warm rays wash over his face. I watched him silently. Admittedly, I was still a bit nervous. I didn't want to be. I wanted to support Naruto no matter what, but then I thought back to that woman's eyes. Those judgmental eyes. I wrapped my arms around myself in a vulnerable manner. It's time I let you in, Hinata. Then you can make your final decision. Naruto spoke up, snapping me out of my dark thoughts. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Naruto walked in front of me and raised a single finger directly between my eyes. Do you trust me? I hate that I hesitated this time. Why? Yes, Naruto-kun. I could see the sadness in his eyes. It broke my heart. I wish I could reverse time for just a second so I could answer him more confidently. Naruto placed his finger against my forehead and my world immediately went black. I blinked my eyes open to stare into what looked like a sewer. Pipes ran along the walls. The floor was covered in water, but my feet didn't feel wet. A squeeze to my hand drew my attention. Naruto was standing at my side. Before I tell you everything, you should finally meet him, Naruto said while turning us around. My head craned back as I looked at a huge steel cage. I couldn't even see the top. Behind the bars, two large, feral eyes looked down at me. I nearly jumped out of my skin and clung closely to Naruto. He wrapped his arms around my waist and hugged me tight. He still made me feel safe. I was extremely happy to realize that. The large creature moved forward until its entire figure was revealed. The gigantic red fox must have been over 50 feet tall. He had this sinister grin along his muzzle. It's so nice to finally meet you, little one. Its voice was deep and booming. If possible, I clung even closer to Naruto. Okay, okay, she gets it. You're big and bad. Cut the act, furball. Naruto spoke up while pointing an accusatory finger at Kyuubi. Kyuubi released an annoyed growl. I told you to stop calling me that boy. Naruto waved a hand dismissively. Yay yay. The fox grumbled before suddenly shrinking dramatically in size. Naruto moved forward with me remaining close at his side. We walked to the edge of the cage and watched as Kyuubi shrunk down to the size of an actual fox. He was tiny now. Better. Thanks. Naruto called out in a pleased tone while taking a step into the cage. I hesitated. Naruto looked back at me with a gentle smile. Remember what I said before? I looked away and began to fidget. I took a deep breath before looking up to Naruto with renewed faith. You'll always protect us. His grin brightened. Believe it. I stepped through the cage without hesitation now. As long as Naruto was by my side, I could endure anything. Kyuubi kept his eyes on me as we moved in. Him being so small did a lot to calm my nerves. We should have proper introductions. Kyuubi suggested. I went wide-eyed before bowing over at the waist. It's nice to meet you, Kyuubi-sama. I blurted out to show as much respect as I could. To my surprise, Kyuubi bowed his head and closed his eyes. The pleasure is all mine. I was quite surprised by his politeness. I lifted my head as Naruto walked up to Kyuubi. Kyuubi met Naruto halfway before jumping in Naruto's arms. Naruto cradled the fox like a pet. Kyuubi maintained a stoic expression. Kind of like a cat. See, Kyuubi-sensei is harmless. Naruto blurted out. Sensei. Oh, I guess that makes sense. I'm more of a mentor, but I suppose the term is an accurate enough characterization of our relationship. It was strange seeing Kyuubi speak while Naruto held him. It was especially strange how Kyuubi kept its stoic expression while speaking. He didn't purr or rub against Naruto or anything like that. If anything, Naruto acted more like a pet. Well, now that you've met Kyuubi, I think it's time I told you about our plans. It was mostly my idea, but Kyuubi helped me figure out most of the details of how things will actually work. Naruto explained. Kyuubi jumped out of Naruto's arms and began to walk further into the cage. I'll leave you to it then. The fox called out. My eyes lingered on Kyuubi until it disappeared into the darkness. I then turned my attention to Naruto. He was staring at me intensely. It made me shiver. Come here. Naruto beckoned. I stepped forward thoughtlessly and fell into his arms. There was something about the way he spoke that compelled my compliance. He stole a kiss from my lips. My body responded like it normally did. I rose up on my tippy toes and arched my back. A swooning sigh escaped my lips. He pulled away slightly in order to gaze off to the side into the darkness. I followed his gaze. Within the water along the ground, images began to form. Naruto's expression hardened. I picked up on his mood shift right away. This world is disgusting. There is a reason that I had the terrible childhood that I did, that I was treated so badly. It's because people are shit. Naruto began. As Naruto spoke, a sea of images played out, like moving art which illustrated various acts of people and civilizations. The art was like caveman drawings. They are selfish, petty, greedy, murderous, warlike. All they care about is themselves and their families. People rape each other, steal from each other, torture each other, lie to each other constantly. 1,000 people will step over just one in need because it's too inconvenient to help. Naruto ranted. He was seething. I just listened. I had to fully understand Naruto's perspective even if it was dark. But there is hope. That admission drew my attention. You really think so, Naruto-kun? Naruto nodded with a gentle smile. I do. I've also seen the good in people. Iruka-sensei is a perfect example of that. He supports me and is kind to me despite knowing that I am the demon child. He didn't let the hate of the villagers taint his morals. Even despite being a chunin, he has never taken a life. He's always found a peaceful path forward and shunned tainting his hands with blood as so many others have done. It was clear to me how much admiration Naruto had for Iruka. Naruto's eyes narrowed. People like him deserve better. People like the boy I used to be, the girl you used to be, deserve better. I want to make a world where everyone is like Iruka. The world I envision will be a good world where lives like mine, and even lives of neglect like yours are made impossible. A world filled with only good people, kind people. I want to make a world where if one person falls, everyone reaches out a hand to help them. I marveled at Naruto. That's so beautiful, Naruto. He didn't look at me. He grew a sad smile. It will be, but first, in order to make that dream come true, I have to break this world. Naruto hissed. My attention shifted down to the water again. I watched images of a lone figure passing judgment over a crowd of people. The world I envision can't exist as long as there are people with black hearts. That's where Kyuubi comes in. I was a bit lost after that. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Kyuubi reappeared in the distance, still in its small fox form. It just sat in the darkness staring at us. In order to gain the power to rule this world, I made a pact with Kyuubi. He will teach me, help me grow stronger. For as long as I live, I will be able to draw from his power and knowledge. In exchange, those I deem unworthy of life, those who break my laws and those who I decide kill along the path, Kyuubi will have first claim on them. Kyuubi will devour them. My eyes widened in shock. Devour them. Kyuubi grew a twisted grin along his muzzle. When a human commits a sinful act, it changes their heart. Makes them less pure. When a person lies, cheats, steals, kills, rapes, those actions taint their heart. Not every action is equally tainting. The worse the sin, the blacker their hearts and the more delicious they are to Kyuubi. I was mortified. Naruto seemed nonchalant about those details. Even a seemingly justified action like killing or maiming someone who is a direct threat to someone you love is tainting. An action like that destroys a person's innocence no matter how justified. Naruto's eyes settled on me now. Oh gods. I covered my mouth in horror. Is that what Naruto thought of me? I had a black heart. Naruto chuckled. It's okay, Hinata. In a world as messed up as this, it's nearly impossible to maintain a pure heart. Especially when it comes to defending someone you love. That's what I want to change. When I conquer the world and create my empire, one by one I will kill those who represent the worst aspects of human nature. Even a crime as petty as lying or cheating will be punishable by death. I'll give this tainted society the punishment it deserves. And hopefully by the time you and I die, we will be the last people with black hearts. Our deaths will usher in a new era of peace and love that our children can thrive in. My mind was racing as I listened. But, all that death. How can you be sure that your efforts won't be in vain after you die? If you do this, if you kill so many people and then the world just becomes the same after you die, then what would have been the point? If I made a good enough point, maybe I could change Naruto's mind. He grinned at me. That's also where my pact with Kyuubi comes in. As Kyuubi consumes people and absorbs their chakra, his power will grow. Eventually he will become so powerful that no one will ever be able to challenge him again. When I die, he'll even absorb my chakra. He will use his eternal life to be the ever-vigilant judge, jury and executioner that watches over the society I create. He will keep people in check and hunt down those with black hearts until all that remains are the good, innocent, loving, self-sacrificing people like Iruka-sensei. No one will ever need to kill again. There will be no war, there will be no rape or slavery, none of it. That is our pact. Kyuubi will forever shepherd the innocent world. And I will be its harbinger. I fell on my butt now. It was all too much to take in. Naruto stepped closer and stood above me, his intense gaze bearing down on me. As emperor, I will bring this world to its knees. I will find pleasure in punishing the people of this vile civilization for the pile of shit they created and continue to perpetuate. I will make them all pay. Hokage, who was too much of a coward to challenge the ignorance of his own people. He stood by and let them hate me, allowing me to live alone and malnourished in the worst part of the village. Danzo, who played a key role in Kyuubi being sealed in me in the first place. All the other shinobi who stood idly by and did nothing to defend me but break their back to defend every other shitty person in this damnable village. The civilians of this village who stepped over me when I needed help and tormented me for crimes I did not commit. They will all feel my wrath. I was trembling uncontrollably. Naruto no longer held his nonchalant demeanor. He looked like, well, a demon. You will be one of the few who are immune to my ire and Kyuubi's hunger. Right now I'm giving you the chance to return to your family and get as far away from me as possible. I told you that I would never hurt you and I meant it. You are special. But I won't stop and I won't feel guilty about teaching this world the lesson it deserves. Naruto ended his sentence by turning away and staring down at the water. The image of a lone figure occupying a throne with a crowd of people bowing below him formed in the ripples. I stayed silent for a long while. My mind was going a mile a minute. I could barely think. I had to calm down. I closed my eyes and held my hands to my chest and began to breathe deeply while exhaling through my nose. Mother taught me this calming technique before she passed. I stopped focusing on my thoughts and instead focused on what I felt. What I truly felt. I reflected on the events of the last few months. The way I killed that man in defense of my love, how I felt when Naruto first used his power to kill those who attacked us. The words I spoke to the shinobi who attempted to stop me from returning to Naruto. Even how I felt when watching Naruto torture those people. It was horrifying, but beneath that there was a feeling I didn't recognize. It was obvious now. Through all of it, the good, the bad, the terrible, one feeling stood out. A particular set of words Naruto kept repeating. I was special. Naruto was sharing his life with me, trusting me. He showed me all his vulnerabilities, his strengths, his dreams, his fears. He shared with me his pain, his best and worst sides. Only me. I didn't even think Kyuubi held the bond that Naruto and I had. No, no one did. Just me. He picked me. I rose up to my feet and stepped calmly towards Naruto. He turned to face me, a wary gaze on his face. I could see the fear in his eyes. He feared that I would reject him. At this moment I may have been the only person in the world who could truly hurt him without fear of feeling his wrath. Others who glared at him would find themselves at his mercy. Those that attacked him would feel his claws, his teeth, his fire. But not me. Only I could hurt him and only I could accept him in that special way. Unconditionally, unfalteringly. Only I could have his heart. You can't get rid of me, Naruto-kun. I'm here to stay. I spoke in a breathless voice while trailing my fingers through the hair on the side of his head and gently caressing his scalp. I saw something in Naruto that I don't recall ever seeing. Doubt. Why? After everything I've shown you, after everything I've done, you still want to be with me. I'm not going to change, Hinata-chan, and I'm not going to stop. Making these people suffer for the things they've done makes me happy. And I only plan to do it more and more. How can you still stay with me when you so obviously disapprove of what I do, of what I will do? I smiled gently and rose up on my tippy toes to steal a kiss. We lingered on that tender exchange for several sweet moments. I pulled back with a contented and resolute expression. It's because I love you, Naruto-kun. Admittedly, the way you go about things aren't ideal, but despite all that, I still see the beauty in your dream. That's enough for me. All I ask is that you let me be a part of that dream, always by your side. I will always love you, Naruto-kun, no matter what. Believe it. Naruto did something I couldn't have predicted. He started to cry. He reached an arm up to wipe his tears. He tried to look away, but I wouldn't let him. I rose back up to re-engage our loving kiss. I couldn't help tears falling down my cheeks as well. I love you, Hinata-chan. Or should I say, Empress Hinata. Naruto spoke sweetly to me. My smile brightened. I love you too, Naruto-kun. Or should I say, Emperor Naruto-kun. Naruto let out a jovial giggle. Probably more at the fact that I still put kun at the end of his name even when calling him emperor. It was an improper way to speak, but to me he would always be Naruto-kun. I like the sound of that. The image in the water, which previously showed one lone figure on a throne, now shifted to show two figures sitting next to each other on their respective thrones. A man and woman forever united, forever at each other's side. Before we could kiss again, our bodies were suddenly engulfed by two giant furry fox tails. Okay, you two, if you are going to be like that, you can do so outside my home. Kyuubi's annoyed voice grumbled as he picked us up and set us on our feet outside the cage. He was in his giant fox form now. Naruto rubbed the back of his head sheepishly. I clung to him. My world went black again. We were back in the clearing. Naruto's finger was still pressed against my forehead. Without missing a beat, I sprang forward and engulfed him in a hug. He fell back into the grass and wrapped his arms around my waist securely. Naruto released a dominant growl and rolled us over so he was on top and I was the one on my back. I let out a squeal as he bent down to engage me. We didn't train that night. He didn't complain. Naruto let two of the women go a week later. Turns out the woman who was married had a darker heart than the others. She was cheating on her husband. Kyuubi devoured her. I choose not to watch, but Naruto was honest about what happened. I didn't want to imagine what devouring looked like. Within a few weeks, Naruto had 4 more captives. He was developing a routine. Every once in a while, when I walked through the village with Naruto, I'd recognize one of the victims living out their daily lives. They had no outward signs of the horrors Naruto put them through. No scars, no permanent physical damage. Naruto's blue fire was special in that it didn't leave a lasting mark. It just made them feel like they were being burned alive. That was another way to hide the evidence of what he had done. He's so smart. I definitely noticed changes in how the general population regarded Naruto. I saw less and less hatred among the people. Those once heated glares were replaced by timid, fearful, respectful glances. Naruto was very pleased. I started to notice something else as well. The people that Naruto victimized gave me similar glances. I was often seen assisting Naruto during his sessions. I felt guilty for the longest time, but slowly my guilt began to fade. Naruto never took someone who didn't deserve it. Now that I knew Naruto's motivations, it was getting easier to help him, to stay by his side, to support him no matter what. I didn't say it out loud, but after a while I began to enjoy the respect they gave me. Naruto's delight was contagious. As long as it was towards people that deserved it, then what we were doing wasn't so bad. Right. I knew one thing for sure. Naruto was happy. Genuinely happy. The sadness that he hid behind his Dobi mask was slowly but surely fading away. I could see every day how my love, loyalty, and unflinching devotion positively affected him. I won't give this up for anything, for anyone. I'll do anything to make him happy, for I am his empress. Empress Hinata, wife of the great Emperor Naruto-kun. That sounds nice. Actually, I should say my full future name. Empress Hinata Uzumaki. Much better. Empress Hinata, wife of the great Emperor Naruto-kun. That sounds nice. Actually, I should say my full future name. Empress Hinata Uzumaki. Much better. Just over a year later. Hinata. Wow, really? You're 1 year older than us and you still can't make a basic henge. Kiba barked out annoyingly. Most of the class burst into laughter. Naruto was standing in front of the classroom having shifted into a misshapen version of the Hokage. Iruka, who was observing from the side, shook his head and began to scribble some notes down on his clipboard. Naruto was engulfed in smoke, transforming back to his regular self. He had the cutest pout on his lips as he dramatically pointed at the class. Just you wait. Someday I'm going to surpass even Sasuke and be the greatest Hokage. Naruto proclaimed. The class laughed even louder. Get real, Naruto. You'll never surpass Sasuke-kun. Not in a million years. Sakura screeched. Naruto huffed and returned to his seat with his arms crossed. I tried to ignore the murmurs as Iruka called someone else to the front. Like always, Naruto kept pretending to be the dobi of the class. He did it in order to avoid drawing unnecessary suspicion to himself. Still, the way most everyone picked on him always angered me. But I wasn't supposed to be too nice to Naruto during class. Naruto, well, more Kyuubi, said it would be best. Though it was getting harder and harder to endure the constant disrespect of my love. I believe in you, Naruto-kun. I whispered to Naruto. We sat in different rows to not draw suspicion. I was in the row behind him. Oh my gods, Hinata. How can you keep supporting that loser? Sakura spat out. I gritted my teeth. That's it. I'll make her pay. It took me a few days to get my chance. I didn't want to be too overt with my actions, so I waited until Iruka-sensei called for a sparring session. Everyone paired up. Sakura usually paired up with Ino, but I had different plans. Sakura-chan, would you like to spar? I asked in my sweetest voice. I could tell that her eyes were heatedly on Ino. They'd developed a rivalry to fight for Sasuke's attention. Sakura quirked a brow and shifted her gaze to me. Sure. I need practice beating up someone other than Ino Pig. Ino glared daggers from off to the side. I ignored her and nodded while dropping into a fighting stance. Sakura cracked her knuckles. It took all my willpower to hide my contempt for her. That arrogant, annoying, disrespectful, Here I come, Hinata. She charged me and I pretended to struggle to block her attacks. Kyuubi-sama told us that I should hide my power as well at school. I could do well academically, but in terms of strength I had to show restraint. Be honest, you like Naruto, don't you? Sasuke said while landing a punch against my stomach. I pretended to recoil. What do you mean? Sakura scoffed. Oh come on. Everyone sees the way you look at him, the way you talk to him. You've got a crush on the dead last in class. I'm disappointed in you, Hinata. You can do so much better. I was seething. Naruto-kun, he's not weak. He's strong. He just needs time. I couldn't say too much, but I couldn't just let her keep talking down to him. Oh my gods. You're in love. It's kind of pathetic, really. Sakura hissed with a snake-like grin. She charged me, ready to deliver another blow. I narrowed my eyes and dodged it easily before landing a powerful slap to her face. Admittedly, I might have gone a little overboard. Sakura was knocked off her feet and crashed to the ground. She even slid a bit in the dirt. Sakura! Iruka shouted in alarm, having caught the exchange out the corner of his eye while watching over the field. He rushed over and knelt over Sakura. She was trembling, sending a fearful glance over to me from her defeated position on the ground. I went wide eyes. Oops. I got strange looks the rest of the day. After school, Naruto and I moved in separate directions like normal. After a while, I'd turn and head back to our apartment or our clearing. Kyuubi advised us that we should keep our relationship secret, but often I had doubts as to why. I knew why Naruto needed to hide his strength, but why couldn't I be outwardly open with our relationship? It was a bit frustrating, but Naruto agreed with Kyuubi, so I did as instructed. Still, hey, someone called out to me, snapping me out of my thoughts as I walked down a common path. I hadn't yet turned towards our apartment yet. I swiveled about and was surprised to see Sasuke. Oh, hello Sasuke. I responded back pleasantly. What did he want? Sasuke has never really spoke to me or sought my attention. Like most girls, I was pretty much invisible to him. Not that I minded. What he did next completely shocked me. Without warning, Sasuke quickly pulled a kunai from his leg pouch and sent it sailing for my chest. I narrowly dodged it before finding another half-dozen kunai sailing my way. Sasuke. What? I called out frantically while weaving through and dodging each deadly weapon which was sent my way. Sasuke appeared in the blink of an eye just above me. My body moved on instinct. He aimed an axe kick down on my head. I blocked his kick with one hand and gently swept his leg to the side to throw him off balance. Before he could recover, I spun and sent a palm at his chest. My strike landed clean, sending him sliding backwards. Sasuke stopped and grew a satisfied smirk. I had no idea what was going on. Was this really Sasuke? Why would he attack me? I was tempted to activate my Byakugan, but I thought better of it. It was too early for that. I knew it, Sasuke proclaimed. I frowned. Knew what? What's going on? I questioned warily. Sasuke tucked his hands in his pockets and walked up to me with his normal cool swagger. I hesitantly rose up from my fighting stance, though I was still on guard. You're stronger than everybody else in class. By a lot. Why are you hiding your strength? Sasuke asked while stopping right in front of me. I went wide-eyed and gazed off to the side, unsure of what to say. Well, I didn't want to make something up. Not when I was so caught off guard. I knew it wouldn't sound believable. So I let out a calming breath and looked up to him with a serious gaze. That's my business. Please stop following me, I stated sternly before turning my back to him and beginning to walk off. Sasuke grabbed my wrist. My Byakugan flared. He made me nervous. I stared him down in warning. Sasuke matched my gaze without falter before letting me go. Suit yourself, he said with a scoff, turning away and walking off. I was about to continue on my way, but Sasuke called out to me one last time. For the record, pretending to be as weak as the other girls seems pretty dumb. The real you is far more appealing, he said with the corner of his eyes lingering on me before he jumped onto a branch and sped off. My face was as red as a tomato. What did he say? Ha 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 ha. Oh my gods. Really? I can totally see him saying that. It's official. This was the most embarrassing moment of all time. I rushed to the clearing to tell Naruto about what happened and he just started laughing. Like, really hard. Naruto-kun. It's not that funny. I hoped my voice didn't sound too whiny. I couldn't help pouting. Naruto was currently doing handstand push-ups, looking at me upside down. He had a large boulder cradled between his knees. He liked to do this particular exercise without a shirt. Usually I'd be staring at his toned figure, but today I was too distracted. Oh come on Hinata-chan. You don't think it's even a little bit funny? I gazed off to the side with a frown. Not really. Doesn't it make you nervous about another boy saying those things to me? I poked my fingers together. I didn't want to admit it, but it would be nice if Naruto were at least a tiny bit jealous. Why would I be? Naruto responded nonchalantly. Oh, I guess you're right. There is nothing to be nervous about. As I finished my sentence, I heard a loud thud. What immediately followed were Naruto's big blue eyes staring at me an inch away from my face. Naruto had gotten fast since we've been together. Very fast. Oftentimes I couldn't keep up with his movements even with my Byakugan active. One moment Naruto was doing a handstand and the very next moment he was right in front of me. He wrapped an arm around my waist and tugged me against him. I arched my back and placed my hands against his chest. There is no chance in hell I'd let anyone take what's already mine. Naruto's voice oozed confidence. He wore a smile, eyeing me as if I were prey. I melted completely. When his lips crashed against mine, my knees nearly gave in. I had to grab onto his shoulders in order to keep myself from collapsing. He let out a hungry growl. The sound was amplified by a demonic echo. He'd been doing that a lot recently. The power of his growl sent shivers through my entire body. When he pulled back and let me go, I fell to my knees. I looked up to him as if he were a god. Naruto walked off the side to grab his t-shirt and orange jacket. I'm very pleased with what happened today. I've been wanting to talk to you more about my plans for the future. I've been thinking about it a lot and I have a few more details fleshed out. He said while casually walking back towards me and putting on his shirt and jacket. I nodded in a dumbfounded way. Naruto chuckled lightly and picked me up bridal style, which caused me to let out a little squeak. He knew how much I loved being carried like that. He carried me to our favorite spot. It was a little waterfall not too far away. We'd lay along the grass for hours staring up at the sky. Not only was the sound of the waterfall calming, but this location was high enough for us to get a very nice view of the sunset. We came here to relax, to talk, to just be with each other. Naruto lay in the grass on his back. I laid partially atop him with my head resting along his chest. I'm sorry about today. I was the first to break the silence. Naruto grabbed my butt and pulled me up until we were face to face. There is nothing to apologize for. Naruto insisted. I shook my head. But there is. I revealed my strength carelessly. Now everyone will look at me differently. Iruka seems suspicious and Sasuke now knows how much stronger I am than everyone else. Besides you, of course. I know you and Kyuubi wanted me to hide my strength and I failed. I ranted with tears threatening to fall from my eyes. Naruto took a serious expression when staring up at me. Hinata-chan. I need you to listen to me. I gasped and nodded right away. Okay, Naruto-kun. Stop apologizing. You made a small mistake. That's okay. As long as you learn from it, then there is nothing to feel guilty about. This is simply a learning opportunity. Nothing more, nothing less. His words were encouraging, but I still had doubts. I bowed my head and began poking my fingers together. Naruto grabbed my chin in order to pull my face to his, stealing a kiss from my lips. I melted once again. Do as your emperor says. You stop feeling guilty this instant. Naruto ordered in a playful yet still forceful enough tone. That brought a smile to my face. As you command, your majesty. Naruto released another one of his demonic growls. He really liked it when I spoke that way. And I liked it too. We'd been doing that more and more recently. It seemed fitting. Good girl. My toes curled. He knew how his words affected me. I could see it in his satisfied grin. Now, let's start that lesson. That's the end of this chapter. Please review. Alright, see you guys Wednesday. Do you know why it's important for the both of us to hide our strength? I think so, Naruto-kun. I know that you need to hide your strength in order to avoid drawing suspicion to yourself. Especially since you've been punishing the villagers. Naruto nodded. Yes. But why is it important that you hide your strength? And more so, why is it important that we hide our relationship? I had to think hard about that one. Well, you are still considered the demon child, and a Hyuga being the girlfriend of the demon child will probably cause a ton of problems. Especially since that Hyuga happens to be the daughter of the clan leader. Naruto chuckled and kissed me on the forehead. Good answer, Hinata-chan. His encouraging words put a smile on my face. We were both resting atop the grass in our favorite spot near the waterfall. He laid on his back while I draped my body atop his, resting the side of my head along his shoulder. I want to go into more detail about why it has been important for the both of us to be so careful. I've been holding off on having this conversation because, quite honestly, I didn't think either one of us was fully ready to have it, given our age. I sat up now with a worried expression. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? Naruto remained in his relaxed, laying position. I wanted to make sure that not only were we both at an age that would make it easier for us to understand our situation fully, but I also wanted to ensure that our relationship was strong enough to handle the truth. He was scaring me now. I began to fidget. What truth is that? Naruto's gaze settled upon me. You are my greatest weakness, Hinata-chan. I gasped, my hands covering my mouth in horror. He sat up quickly and wrapped his arms around my waist. Okay, before I say anything further, you need to calm down right now. It's okay. We'll be fine. This is just a necessary part of the lesson. Naruto tried to reassure me. Tears were welling up in my eyes. I was overwhelmed with guilt. A deep-throated growl snapped me out of my despair. Naruto's intense, overbearing gaze bore down on me. His growl shook my body. I said, "Stop it," Naruto commanded. I quickly raised my arms to wipe my tears away. Why, yes, Your Majesty. I'm trying my best. Try harder. Okay. I closed my eyes and began to take deep breaths, just like my mother taught me. When I opened my eyes, Naruto was still staring at me. I bowed my head submissively and stayed silent. After he was satisfied with my compliance, he dropped back into his lazing lying position. Alright, now that that's out of the way, the lesson continues. Listen closely, Naruto said while staring up at the blue sky. I nodded in determination. My insecurities were replaced by deep focus. Naruto was very inspiring when he wanted to be. When you think about it, it's totally my fault for us having to be so cautious. Being the demon child is enough on its own, but punishing the villagers would be a real big bother if someone found out about it. And by someone I mean either the Hokage or his shinobi. Honestly, I don't even see it as a matter of fault. Our caution is simply a trade-off, a necessary consequence of my fun. Naruto sounded so casual while he spoke. I'd gotten used to how little compassion he showed for the villagers who glared at him. In fact, his nonchalant attitude helped calm me down. Smacking Sakura so hard earlier today drew attention to you. And I doubt that will be the last thing that draws attention to your strength. It is inevitable. Showing your strength would be completely fine if we weren't together. But we are together, and if someone really wanted to investigate you, it wouldn't be hard to figure that out. You were right. Just the fact that the daughter of the Hyuga clan chief is dating the demon child would be scandalous enough, but that extra attention would also increase the chance that my fun is discovered. I nodded. That all seemed to make sense even if I couldn't articulate it as well as Naruto. It seems like he was getting smarter and smarter every day. But here is the real problem, Hinata-chan. I leaned in. Like I mentioned before, you are my weakness because you aren't strong enough to protect yourself if we are discovered. Right now I'd say you are about as strong as a high-level Chunin. I'm just a bit stronger than the Hokage. If the village descended on me, I'd be able to escape, but I wouldn't be able to ensure your safety during the escape. I might not even be able to guarantee your safety as we run for our lives and live as missing nin. My guilt was resurfacing. I'm sore. Before I could finish the sentence, Naruto tugged on my hips, dragging me down atop his body. His lips crashed into mine. He muffled my gasp. Stop that. You don't need to apologize. And every time you try, I'm going to punish you with a kiss. Naruto said with a slick smirk. Oh, sore. He was true to his word, planting another quick smooch against my lips. I was tempted to apologize on purpose just to get more punishment from him. But I think he'd done exactly what he wanted. My guilt was completely gone once more. Okay, as I was saying, I can't guarantee your protection as you are now. And even if I could manage to keep you safe during an escape, I'd rather not leave Konoha at all. It's very convenient living here. After gaining your father's sworn allegiance and the allegiance of the entire Hyuga clan, the funding they provide me makes it easy to hide the abductions. Plus I now effectively have spies on the Konoha Council that feeds me very interesting secrets and intelligence. So I want to avoid fleeing Konoha, but I also don't want to stop my fun. That leaves us with a few solutions. One in particular stands out. Something he said gave me pause, but I decided not to interrupt. Naruto noticed. What's on your mind, Hinata-chan? Don't be afraid to ask questions. He knew me all too well. It's about my father. I'm still amazed by that whole night over a year ago. I would have never expected father to swear allegiance to you. Let alone the entire Hyuga clan. Up until now I just thought that you scared him enough by killing so many of them that he gave up out of fear. But the more I think about it, the more things bother me. Naruto had this pleased smile on his lips. Go on, he directed. I took a moment to gather my thoughts before continuing. Well, you just said you are only a little stronger than the Hokage. First of all, I find that really amazing. You've grown so much since we've been together. I didn't even know you were that much stronger than me. I knew you were stronger, just not that much. I began to poke my fingers together. Yeah, I'll explain that too, but continue. Naruto stated nonchalantly. I nodded. Well, even if you are that strong, that's still not strong enough to defeat all of Konoha. You are immune to Hyuga attacks because of Kyuubi, yes, but like you admitted, if Konoha launched a coordinated attack on you, you wouldn't be able to defeat them. You would have to run. And you are much stronger now than you were when you fought my father. If he wanted, he could have retreated, taken a few more losses, but then reported to the Hokage and gathered the entire might of Konoha against you. Instead, not only did he give up, but he also convinced the entire Hyuga Council to swear allegiance to you. They even go so far as to pay financial tribute to you, spy for you, and help hide your abduction of the villagers. How did you make that happen? Naruto's grin was huge. I'm so proud of you, Hinata-chan. Hearing him praise me like that made me blush as hard as the very first time we kissed. Your ability to figure this out on your own is why I'm confident that you are ready to hear and truly understand everything I have to say. Every day you show just how worthy you are to be my empress. Again, I don't know how I managed not to pass out from the lack of blood flow in the rest of my body relative to my face. Thank you, Emperor Naruto-kun. He chuckled and gave me an Eskimo kiss. You're welcome, Empress Hinata-chan. A quiver creeped up my spine. He was just too much. So, to your point, yes, it is strange that your father would act as he did. The simple explanation is he had very little choice. You see, I wasn't strong enough back then to challenge Konoha, and when we talked I openly admitted that I wasn't strong enough. Well, Kyuubi did most of the talking and pointed out an undeniable truth. While I couldn't fight all of Konoha, I also couldn't be captured. Kyuubi had fought all of Konoha already. He knew exactly what they could do and could not do. Hiashi wouldn't be able to do anything to stop me from escaping and becoming a missing nin. I just listened, trying to take it all in. Kyuubi argued that as a missing nin my power would rise exponentially with time. Kyuubi promised that within just 3 years I would return to Konoha and by that time I'd be unstoppable. And Kyuubi was not bluffing. At the rate that my power is increasing, I'll mostly be at that level in less than what Kyuubi calculated. So Hiashi had a choice. Swear his allegiance and convince the Hyuga Council to swear their allegiance to me, or he can inform the Hokage and hope that they would kill me. If they couldn't, then Konoha would be destroyed in 3 years' time. My eyes widened in realization. So allegiance or annihilation? I stated in a dumbfounded way. Exactly. Naruto seemed very satisfied with that set of facts. What about me? I spoke up tentatively. Naruto's gaze softened. You're the primary reason, Kyuubi, and I even decided to give Hiashi a choice. I wanted to stay in the village because I wanted to be with you without hindrance. If I fled, I probably couldn't take you with me. I plan to return in 3 years and take you back after destroying the village. I was very conflicted to hear that admission. Naruto let out a light-hearted laugh while scratching the top of his head. Yay, not the most ideal situation. Definitely glad your dad made the right choice. But I really have to thank Kyuubi for being such a good negotiator. I've learned a lot from him. I sighed and laid my head down along Naruto's chest in exasperation. This was becoming a lot to take in, but I wanted to press on. Thanks for answering my questions, Naruto-kun. I want to finish hearing about the rest of your plans. I don't want to continue being your weakness. Naruto wrapped his arms around me and squeezed tight, holding me close. Yes, I do have a solution to that. I want to start training you from now on. I mean, really training you. Up until now we've been training together, but not really as sensei and student. Now I want you to become my student. I need to invest more in your strength, but it also means you need to be more dedicated to improvement. I didn't even have to think about it. Of course I will, Naruto-kun. I blurted out without thought. He chuckled with a small shake of his head. Somehow that doesn't surprise me. Honestly, I was okay with the way things were going. I didn't want to put too much pressure on you too quickly. I wanted to just enjoy our relationship without having to bog you down with responsibility. Now that our relationship has developed and you've grown stronger, I feel comfortable moving to the next step. I'm glad you trust me so much, Naruto-kun. What he was saying made sense. I was grateful that we were able to just be together for so long. But he's right. I have to pull my weight even if it's hard. I've always trusted you, Hinata-chan. There is another very important factor to starting your training under me. It's this. Naruto said while suddenly sitting up. Now I was positioned atop his lap. Naruto took out a small scroll from his leg pouch and made a few one-handed hand signs before slamming his palm on the ground. As he did, a larger scroll dropped from a cloud of smoke. He snatched it out of the air and unrolled it. These are the instructions on how to perform the Cage Shadow Clone Jutsu. I acquired this a while ago, with Kyuubi's help. It's not the original scroll, but I was able to make a copy of it. This jutsu is the key to my strength and exponential growth. And soon it will aid you in a similar way. I frowned in confusion, looking the scroll over. But I can already make clones, Naruto-kun. Naruto shook his head. Not like these. The clone jutsu that are taught in the academy are basically just illusions. They aren't physical. The clones I'm going to teach you how to make are physical. You divide your chakra among them when you create them. You've seen my clones do work for me. Well, I'm going to teach you to do the same thing. Up until now you haven't had the chakra capacity to sustain these clones for any significant period of time, so the technique wasn't very useful to you. Now you do. Through mastery of this jutsu your strength will rise exponentially. I was still a bit confused. What is the point of making these clones if they divide my chakra? The Hyuga fighting style is best when focused. I feel like I'd just make myself weaker by making multiple weak copies of myself. Naruto nodded. Normally yes. Which is why you rarely if ever see Hyuga shinobi using cloning techniques. However, the real power of this ability isn't necessarily their combat utility, but their ability to allow you to train at exponentially fast rates. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? It's really quite simple. The clones share your memories, your abilities, but most importantly, Any information they learn will be transferred to the original once that clone is dismissed. Clones take up so much chakra that most people can't actually put this trait to good use. The few that can simply haven't noticed the potential. It also can be dangerous if you overexert yourself. For someone like me who has had the guidance of an ancient demon to help master the technique, I've been able to train virtually endlessly with no drawbacks. This is the main reason I've grown so much stronger than you. At every given moment I have over 100 clones training for me. My eyes widened. What? He gave a proud nod. Yep. I have an unusually high amount of chakra. Probably has something to do with being the son of the Hokage. My only limitation is chakra control and refining my capacity. However, my clones have been doing that for me over the past year or so. My clones constantly practice chakra control techniques. They do chakra strength increasing exercises. Chakra is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. Since my clones actually share my chakra, when they improve the chakra they have, that improved chakra comes back to me and I get the benefit. The knowledge they gain in terms of chakra control also comes back to me. Furthermore, the reason it may seem like I've been getting smarter is because I have a few dozen clones reading books at the library and practicing mental exercises. It actually kind of feels like cheating. Naruto burst into childish laughter. I marveled at him. Do you really have so much chakra that you can constantly sustain so many clones? I was amazed. I didn't at first. Kyuubi helped me out by letting me borrow his chakra supply to fuel my clones. I'd mix my chakra with Kyuubi's chakra. Their training wouldn't be as effective, but Kyuubi allowed me to kind of speed up the process. And the chakra control techniques were a huge help to increasing my access to my giant supply of chakra. Now I use only my own chakra. I'm guessing that within a year's time I'll be the strongest person in the world by far. And I'll only keep getting stronger because my clones will constantly be working for me. The only limit is chakra, and I have a near endless supply. Probably as much if not more than the first Hokage. Doesn't that leave you vulnerable though? Splitting your chakra up like that? Naruto shrugged. Not really. I'm about at half chakra capacity at all times. What I do is I make one clone, splitting my total chakra in half. Then I have that clone make all the other clones, so I'm still left with half my chakra. The way chakra works, I'm not any less strong by having a temporarily lower chakra capacity. If I start to run low during combat, I'll just dismiss clones to give me more chakra. So functionally, in a fight I'm always at 100% strength until I actually run out of chakra completely. If my clone exhausts its chakra or is destroyed by an enemy, then it poofs away and that chakra doesn't return. However, if I dismiss a clone early, then I get back most of the chakra I used to make it in the first place. It's pretty efficient actually. We were both quiet for a long while after that. My brain was processing all that new information. Naruto seemed to know exactly when I was being overloaded. So, that's what you are going to do for me? Teach me how to make clones and have them train for me? Yep. You won't grow as fast as me because you don't have the freakish amount of chakra that I do, but I calculate that in about 2 years, as long as you stay diligent, I will no longer have to worry about you. That's all I needed to hear. I narrowed my eyes in determination. I'm ready, Naruto-kun. Naruto chuckled and nodded his head. Okay, Hinata-chan. We have a few more things to go over, but that's enough for one day. For now, let's focus on making your first clone. From now on, we are going to grow your chakra so you can have your clones last longer and longer. I nodded obediently. Yes, sensei. Naruto released a deep demonic growl. He stared at me predatorily. I guess he liked that. Training can wait a little while longer, Naruto declared before pouncing. A flock of birds in a nearby tree flew away when hearing the sudden sound of my delighted squeals.